Hello and welcome to episode 76 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet in my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is December 14th, 2020. Today I'm wearing a triangular shawl that's about 6 years old and it was knit in a yarn that's a mix of alpaca and silk. So it's extremely soft and warm, and I love it. And after I finished knitting it, I was really happy to have something that's just a one-color shawl because I knit so many multicolor things, and I thought it'd be good to have a shawl that's just one color so I can combine it with all the colorful things I have. But then my sister saw it and she fell in love with it, and so she had it for several years. And I can't remember why, but she gave it back to me. Maybe she got something that was similar to this and she wasn't wearing it as much. I don't know. It mainly lives in my shop now, which means she can wear it if she wants to. And I can just throw it over if I get cold and I didn't bring enough to wear. So I have several things that kind of live in my shop, and sometimes I take them home and then I leave other things here. But as this is just this dark blue, it just goes with almost everything I have, so it's really handy to have it here. And because it was just the one color, of course I had to knit many patterns, and I got the pattern from some old magazine, or was it an old book? I don't remember. So I don't have it anymore, but it's just several either lace patterns or knit pearl patterns, all of them quite simple. But I just liked doing something different every now and then, and I really like it a lot. And the pullover I'm wearing, some of you may have recognized it. It's called the Känguruh Pullover, and I'll just for fun show you the way it looks when Stephen West knits it. So this is the pullover, the original version of the pullover, and these are the shorts, the trousers that go with the pullover. And I'm actually wearing both. So I'll step on my chair again in a moment and let you know, let you see. So this is one version that he knit, and then he also has another version. Oh, by the way, this is him wearing the outfit. And the other version looks a lot different. So this is a short sleeve version, but especially with the colors, it's so different from the other one. And the trousers that goes with that one is this. Yeah, so that's his version, and my version looks like this. So I used DK weight sock yarn held double. So I used the same color held double here, and then down here I doubled it with a different color. And then I used the second color together with dark blue here, and then these bits is the dark blue doubled in itself, and the back is, I don't remember whether it was just that color held double in itself or if it was two different colors. I don't remember, but this was I think this was a different color again with the pink and the orange, but I held it double with one of the blues. And then on this sleeve, I ran out of the pink and orange yarn. So this bit, I think, is just the same colors as this part. So it has many different colors. It has this beautiful, huge pocket and the dark blue strips on the side. And now I'm going to stand on my chair. Oops. And these are the kangaroos, the shorts and the trousers, and as you can see, I used the same colors for the back and the same colors for the front, and this is where they stop, so they go down below my knees. And yeah, it looks very funny. My sister says I look like a little boy when I wear this outfit. But I think it looks really funny, and especially it keeps me really warm because it's such a big chunky thing with the DK weight yarn held double, and I love it. Yeah, it's really cozy, and I keep saying this is my work uniform because it's yarn and it's knitted, and that's what my shop is about. So I really love it. So that was what I am wearing today. And then on to finished objects. I have one proper finished object and then a tiny little extra that doesn't really count. And I finished my glitter spiral hat. No big surprise. It was, I don't think there was a lot missing last week, but yeah, I think it's a fun little hat. Funnily enough, the size is exactly the size to put on a roll of toilet paper, which I'm not going to do, but this is the size it came out. It will also fit a child's head, so I'll just need to find the right child to wear this. Yeah, and it's an experiment, but I think it came out really nice, and I just need to find out how to knit other sizes, but I'm working on that. You'll see that later. And when I finished the hat, it was late in the evening, and I wasn't really, I couldn't be bothered to get up and get another knitting project that was lying around somewhere else. So I just used the leftover yarn and some needles that were lying around, and I decided to knit, do you say bookmark? So you can put it in your book, and you can keep your page. And so one end is a sock, and one end is a little hat. I'd seen that somewhere. I can't remember. So I didn't really use a pattern. I just knitted. I started knitting the sock, and after I decreased to 4 stitches, I just knit the I-cord, and then I increased for the hat. I think it's really funny, and I'll probably give it to somebody as a Christmas present, as a little extra Christmas present. I was thinking about next time maybe starting with the hat, and then maybe have the I-cord on this part of the sock, so it'll hang down like this. I think that'd be even nicer, but I wasn't thinking about that when I started knitting it, so I think it's okay. It's just a little fun little extra that I knit, because I was too lazy to get up and get something else to knit. So that's my finished objects for today. On to works in progress. And when I was writing down my notes, I realized that I did not knit on the sock I showed last week, but I did knit on the sock that I didn't show last week. So it seems my sock projects are taking turns. But the first sock I did knit on is the 2-color brioche sock. I did not add a lot. I think the last time I showed you, I just finished with the yellow, and I just added a bit of pink. I keep saying it's a bit tedious to just keep knitting the brioche, and there's no heel and nothing changes except for the colors, of course. I don't think I could ever knit a brioche sock in one color. I'd probably go crazy. I need the colorful stripes to keep me going. But yeah, so I just added a bit of knitting on that, and I'll just show my leg warmers next, because that's another 2-color brioche project, which is so similar to that one. The difference being that this is a DK weight yarn, the other one is a 4-ply sock yarn, so this is a lot quicker. The reason I hadn't knit on that was that I was planning to film a tutorial, which I have done. I filmed the tutorial yesterday, and it's already published on YouTube. It's in German, but if you look underneath the video, it's the other channel, you won't see the video. Anyway, you don't need my video, because the sockomatician Nathan Taylor made a very good video about 2-color, I think he calls it 1-pass 2-color brioche knitting, something like that. And it's a lot better than my video, because he shows you how to knit the thing either holding both yarns in your left hand, or both yarns in the right hand, or one yarn in either hand. And I just show how to knit it with both yarns in the left hand, because this is how I knit. But anyway, as I finished the video, I can keep knitting on these, and I'm really looking forward to wearing these leg warmers, so I hope to get them done quickly. I hope to get everything done quickly. You know that by now, but Anyway, so these are the socks that or leg warmers that you've seen before, and I have cast on a new pair of socks, and I'm using this beautiful opal yarn. The series was called Ice Cream, and I think it's a really beautiful color. It's supposed to be a Christmas present. I won't tell you who it's for in case he watches. I don't think he does, but you never know, so I'll tell you later. They won't be finished by Christmas, so I'll show the finished project after Christmas, and then I can let you know who they are for. So I've knit this much. Very simple vanilla socks so far. They will be different later. I'll show you in a minute. And part of the reason I started them, even though I can't finish them by Christmas, was that I wanted to try out these new needles. They're by Adi, and they're called, I forgot what they're called, but these are new needles. Oh, they're called Novelle or Novel. I don't know how to pronounce it, but they have this structure on the needles, and you can either get the circular needles that I did, or you can get the crazy trios that you can use for sock knitting as well. But the what are they called? The guy I get my stuff from for the shop, he didn't have the crazy trios, so I got the circular needles, and the only thing I can knit on those small needles is socks. So even though I'm not a huge fan of magic loop, I decided to knit another pair of socks on a circular needle, and I do feel like I'm getting more used to this technique. And anyway, I'll finish the sock on these needles because I wanted to try them out, and now that I've started them, I'll finish them on this. Oh, and I wanted to show you what the sock is supposed to look like when they're done. And what I'm planning to do is knit these socks. This is a German magazine called Socken und Accessoires, and all the projects in this little magazine are knit with opal sock yarn. So this is why I got it. And the plan is to knit several of these socks with different colors for the main part, and then they all get a black cat at the tip. And I'm a bit worried that if the sock finishes on the blue stripe, there might not be enough contrast to properly show off the ears. But I think I can play around with where the cat hat starts. So I'll try. If possible, I'd love to stop after the light stripe, but even if I stop after the medium stripe, it should be okay for the ears to show up. Well, we'll see. But that's the plan anyway. Yeah, cat socks. And then there's another project that I started that I'm knitting on double pointed needles, so I'll show it in this sock section, even though it's not socks. But I am knitting another pair of gloves designed by Bernd Kessler. So this is a book that in the Japanese title is Bernd Kessler's Mittens, but the German title of the book, because it's been published in German as well, is Knitting Japanese Mittens, which I think is so funny the way they translated the title. But anyway, the funny thing about these are you start knitting the mittens, knitting the thumb, and then you increase for the hand, and you finish with a cuff. And I've knit several of these mittens before, but now I decided to try and knit these. And I usually do not like mittens or gloves that completely enclose my hand, because I need to feel my fingers to be able to do things, and if I can't touch things, I'll just take them off and I'll usually lose them. So that's why I love these mittens that are open and that I can use my fingers with. But riding my bike in this kind of weather, I do get cold fingers, so I decided to knit a pair that's closed. And my first idea was to knit these. To knit something with a top that you can take off or put on. So I might do that later because I really like that idea too. But I thought if I knit these and I can just put my first finger out, my index finger out, that'd be really fun. I could still touch things. I could still like close the zipper or use my phone or whatever. So that was the plan. And I am using the DK weight sock yarn Shafpate, which is, Shafpate is a yarn that is produced from wool of German sheep. So every year Opal comes out with 8 new colors in this series, and it's always German yarn that grew up in Germany, and it's being dyed and produced and everything in Germany. And this year is the first time they came up with a DK weight Shafpate sock yarn. So this is the first time I'm knitting it, and I am holding it double with the Mohair Silk by Hansa Farm. So I'm holding these double, and I'm knitting really tightly. So I'm using 3.5 millimeter needles, which is really small. I use the same combination of yarns for the Simple Collection cowl and hat and mittens by Tin Can Knits that I knit a while back. And for these things, I used either 4.5 millimeter or 5 millimeter needle. So this is the 3.5 millimeter needle, means it's really tight. But I figured that it would be the best thing for riding my bike. So this is what it looks like. I think it's really interesting how this very thin mohair silk yarn changes the color of the yarn so much. So it's a lot darker than in the yarn, in the ball of yarn. And I have a bit of a problem with the placement of the hole for the index finger because it's way too high. So this is what the pattern says to cast off stitches and cast on new stitches. And by the way, I knit a very long thumb, but it's open. So I can use my fingers, and because it was too high, I decided to make this the left mitten. Usually with these mittens, it doesn't matter whether they're right or left, and it's only because of the hole that it does make a difference. And I've marked the place where I want the hole to be on the right mitten. So I will try and find this spot on the next mitten and place the cast off and cast on there. So because I'm right-handed, so it's more important to be able to use my right hand than the left one. But this is a really dense fabric, and with the sock yarn and with the mohair and the bit of silk, it's still soft even though it's so tight, and it feels really warm, and I can't wait to use them on my bike. And I know that the mohair on the palm, is this the palm of the hand? Should be on the inside of my hand anyway. I know this is going to felt, and it probably won't look too nice after I've used it several times, but I don't mind. This is about being warm. This is about being cozy on my bike, and not about being beautiful. This side will still be beautiful, and that's the side that I will look at, so that's fine. I have started knitting the second mitten, and this is all I've done so far. But this is how you start. You start with knitting the thumb, and then the rest grows from there. Yeah, so that's exciting and interesting, and can't wait to finish them and use them. I told you I can't finish to wait most of my project. There's some that I take my time with, but most of them I want to get done quickly. So that's all the socks or sock-like projects. I knit on my grey jacket. The only project that is not made out of sock yarn. So last time I showed you that I had picked up all the stitches on both the fronts and the back and the top of the sleeves and everything. And this week I put in a second cable so that you can see the jacket properly. So I'm not knitting it like that. So I have a needle on one end, but I have a stopper, and it's 2 cables inside the collar at the moment. But now you can see the way it looks. You can see that I think the number of stitches that I picked up looks right. It doesn't pull in, it doesn't flare out, and this is exactly 1 ball of yarn. So this is all that's left from the first ball of yarn, and it doesn't look like a lot, but if I still have 6 more. So I can knit 6 times this. And that should be plenty to have a nice collar that I can fold over and I can close the jacket, and I'm really, really happy. I was afraid I'd get a lot less out of one ball because there's so many stitches, but I'm really, really happy, and I'm absolutely looking forward to finishing this, just as I said. Yep, so that's my grey and black jacket with no pattern, but boring to knit, but should be really great to wear. That's my jacket. I did not work on my memory blanket. I did not work on the Carnaby crochet alongs. I really want to finish them. Just didn't get around to doing that. But I did a little bit of work on my cat blanket. And I have crocheted 10 noses. So this is one crocheted cat nose with 2 long ends, so I can sew it on, and I can stitch the mouth and the pupils of the eyes. So just in case you don't remember, these are the zombie cats that I created when I crocheted all the eyes, and I sewed them on, but nothing else. And so these are 8 of the noses I crocheted last night, and this was the first cat that stopped being a zombie, and this is the second. So I finished those 2. I have 8 more zombie cats to turn into beautiful cats, living cats. And then I will finally have finished all the squares, and then I can lay them out and decide how to sew them together. Then I need to sew them together. Then I need to crochet the edge. But the end is getting closer. That's the blanket. That's the only blanket I worked on last week. Then I have another new cast on, and that's the second glitter spiral hat. So I think last week I told you that I knit this bottom up, so I just cast on the number of stitches I thought might be good, which was not good, but anyway. And I did the decreases the way I did on my glitter spiral balls, and I just put this I-cord on for fun. But the girls in my knit group they really liked the I-cord, and they told me if I start the hat, or I should add that to the next hat as well. So, and because I knit the next hat top down, I started with the I-cord just for fun, and I did the increases, and now I'm knitting on the straight part. So these are decreases and these are increases. They do look a bit different, and I have 7 decreases here and I have 8 increases here because I wanted a bigger hat, and I didn't want the distance between the increases and decreases to be too much further apart. That's why I decided to do one more line of increases, and then after I did a couple of increases the way I did in my pattern for the glitter spiral balls, I realized that I have twice as many increases as I have on the balls, so it's actually too quick to increase 8 stitches every round, and that's why I have this what do you call it, well, this is why it looks the way it looks. And because I didn't want it to be too crazy, I started knitting one round in between the increases at some point, so that makes it look a bit more normal, until I decided this should be enough stitches. It was a bit difficult to try on, a bit difficult to measure it, but I did decide that should be enough increases and enough stitches. So this is now the distance between those spirals, and as you can see, the rate or the angle of the spiral changes. So it's like this here, and then it's more straight here, and then it goes like this here. It's not all the same. It's probably not a perfect spiral, but I don't mind. It's just a hat. So, and I like the way it looks now, and I'll just keep knitting until it's long enough and big enough to fit me. If it's a bit too wide, which is possible, then I might just knit a few decreases, maybe one round of decreases before I finish the hat. I'll see when I get there. I just need a bit more length to be able to try it on better, and then I'll see how I finish the hat. But I like it. It goes with my pullover that I'm going to show in a minute, and so that's good. Yeah, so I am now at the part where I show all the knit-alongs I take part in. So the first knit-along that is not mine, that I just take part in, is the Adventurous Gnome. Nutmeg, I think is his name. Anyway, I showed you the first few pieces last week. If anyone is knitting the Mystery Gnome by Sarah Shearer, the Adventurous Gnome, and does not want to see what the pieces look like so far, look away now, because now I am going to show everything. So these are all the pieces that we've made so far. Oops, with this. So I think it's quite clear that this is what it's going to look like at some point. I am quite surprised that I have so many stitches now on these needles. This looks quite, quite big. Oops. So this might be a really big gnome in the end. I have no idea. It looks really funny, but I like the way. So these are my colors 1 and 2. This is color 3. We haven't used color 4 yet. Did it see this? And we knit these 2 pieces that nobody knows what they are yet. So I have been thinking if maybe these are the arms and this is like he's holding his own hands or something. If that was the hands, I don't know. And I have no idea what this is supposed to be. Don't think this gnome's going to have legs. I don't think so. So this is a really big surprise. I love knitting it. I had a bit of a problem. These are my colors, except for this bit. These are my colors 2 and 3. And the problem is that some bits of color 2, like this bit. No, not this bit, this bit. So this is color 2 and this is color 3, and they look almost the same. But I don't think it's going to be a problem. I had the same problem with this bit, so I think there should be color 3 here, and I just kept knitting color 2 because it just happened to be the same blue. I don't think it'll be very important that you can tell which is color 2 and which is color 3. I just think it's funny stripes, and that's what it's about. But we'll see. And if I don't like the way the colors came out, I will just re-knit this thing and cut out all the blue out of the color 2. Maybe I'll do that, maybe I won't. We'll see. But this is I've put it down now in case you were looking away. So this is the Adventurous Gnome. I'm really looking forward to getting more pieces. Next week is the 21st, so it won't be finished yet. So you'll have to wait longer to see mine, but if you're knitting it yourself, you'll know what it looks like. Yeah, so on to my knit-alongs, and I'm saying it in plural because we haven't finished the old knit-along, but we're still starting the new one. And I'll just run 2 knit-alongs at the same time. I don't think that's a problem. The first knit-along, the old knit-along, is all the patterns from the Simple Collection by Tin Can Knits. I am knitting the Flax Pullover. I'm using this glitter opal yarn, and I'm holding the yarn double so I get the gauge that the Flax Pullover is knit in. And I've almost finished. I've almost finished knitting my first 2 balls of yarn, and once I finish those, I will start with the sleeves. So this is what my pullover looks like at the moment. This is the front, this is the back, and I do have a front and a back because I added the short rows that Tin Can Knits came up with just recently. So instead of the garter panel, I'm doing a rib. I'm doing some ribbing on top of the arm, and I'm doing some ribbing at the sides in between the front and back. I knit the short rows. I knit the short rows somewhere around here. I think, yeah, you can tell by the color stripes. You can tell that these are short rows. Yeah, it's not very obvious, I think, but when I put it on, I can tell that it sits a lot nicer than it would if I hadn't done the short rows. And this is how long it is at the moment. So I'll just add, I'll just keep knitting until the yarn runs out, and then I'll put in the sleeves, and then I'll finish the front and back. I have still no idea how long I want it to be. I'll see when I get there. So this was the old knit along, and now let's start the new one. And I told you last week that we were going to knit a blanket. I think I did. And the pattern that I chose, or that a friend of mine chose, is the Optic Blanket. It's from Soho, Pearl Soho. It's a free pattern. I'll link to it in my project page. I don't think I've created a project page on Ravelry. I will do that before I put the video up, so I can link my project, and that will link to the pattern, and then you can download, or you look at the pattern online. I have film tutorials on how to knit the blanket that you won't need, because you can look at the original pattern and videos and you'll know how to do it. But for the German speaking viewers of my podcast, of my German podcast, I made those tutorials. They will come out during this week. But now I'll show you what I've knit so far. So the original blanket is knit in black and white, and I think they show several color combinations on their website, but it's all solid colors. So I think it's mostly black and something else, but could also be two different colors without black, but they're not using the colorful yarn I'm using. So I'm using black as my main color, and then for every square I knit, I pick a different color. And so far I'm using leftover yarn. So this was the first square that I knit, and it's leftover yarn from my Raglano, which was a pullover I knit some time ago, and I really like the way it looks. And at first I was thinking I might use a different color for every square, but I did not use a lot of color for this square, and I just love the way it looks. So I will definitely do more squares with this color. And then the second square that I knit was this one. This is a DK weight sock yarn by Lana Grossa, I think. And I crocheted a shawl out of that yarn. And I just had some of it left over, and I thought it looks quite nice together. And then the third square that I knit is this one. And that's another opal yarn. And I can't remember what I knit with it originally. And the last square so far, I'm knitting with this black yarn and with this DK weight sock yarn from the series Sweet Dreams. And this is the yarn that I used to knit my sister's house shoes that I gave to her for her birthday. Because I was using two colors, I had enough left. And this is what it looks like so far. And this also shows you that these squares are knit from the outside in. So I think that's rather unusual. When I first saw those squares, I was pretty sure they were knit from the inside out, but they're not. You knit from the outside in. So for the first square that you knit, you just cast on all the stitches that you need, and then you knit one row and you purl one row so that you get garter stitch in the round. And then after, so it's 2 rows in the main color and 2 rows in the contrast color, and you just do decreases until you get to the middle. And then when you do the second square, you cast on stitches on 3 sides, and on the 4th side, instead of casting on stitches, you knit the stitches out of the edge of the finished square. So, and then with this square, I only cast on for 2 sides, and then for this side and for this side, I picked up the stitches from the finished square. And you pick up purlwise which is another very unusual thing. And I think it's the first time that I've done that. And I've been knitting for a long time. But because you pick up purlwise, it creates a ridge that kind of looks like the garter ridge. And it means that the whole thing has a very harmonious look, is what I might call it. And also it means that on the wrong side, you don't have a ridge or anything that looks like a seam. Basically, it looks more like a seam on the front, but it just goes so well with the pattern that it's very nice. And because you knit them out, it's very stretchy. It's not like a seam that's very tight. Yeah, so that's fantastic. And this is the whole thing. Oops. So far. Yeah, so if you like this pattern and if you've always wanted to knit yourself a blanket, or maybe for somebody else, or you don't even have to make a blanket, you could just do 4 squares like this and use it as a cushion cover. Or you could just do 1 line of squares. So if you just do 1 square and then you pick out of one side and you put another and another and another, you can do, I don't know, maybe 5 or 7 or something, and you can make a scarf. So there's lots of possibilities with this pattern that you can do. And if you want, you can do a whole blanket. And if you want to, you can knit the whole blanket in one piece without seaming anything, which is good if you don't like sewing. But it would mean that with the last squares, you will have the whole blanket that you have to keep rotating while you knit, or you knit a row and then you turn it the other way and then you knit around. So maybe I was thinking it's maybe not the best idea to do the whole blanket in one piece, but you could do like maybe 4 times 4 squares for one piece and then do another piece like that and then just sew down 1 seam in the middle. Then you don't have a lot of sewing, but you don't have the whole blanket. You don't have to move around the whole blanket while you knit. Something like that. So for me, I don't know yet how big I want the blanket to be, so I don't know how many pieces I'm going to make. I'm definitely going to make several pieces just to keep it easier to work with, and I don't mind sewing. And I've also planned filming how to sew 2 pieces together. The only problem is that because this is black yarn, it was difficult enough to film those bits where I had to pick up the stitches purlwise, but for sewing I think it's just impossible to see with the black yarn. So I'm planning to knit some squares with the lighter yarn and then just do one video with how to sew knitted pieces together, something like that. So well, I think people will need time to knit their blanket pieces, so I don't have to have the video on the sewing right now, so I can take time. Yeah, so that's everything I worked on last week. I hope you enjoyed watching my projects grow, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!